The October 2023 Cursillo School of Leaders Zoom call for the Archdiocese of Washington. And tonight, our topic is restarting Cursillo weekends, supporting Cursillo. And our speakers are James Brightful and Sue Numrich. And so, James and Sue, I invite you to take it away.
Okay, thank you. I guess I can start it off. And many of you have heard me talking about the importance of this weekend is not the team, it's not the venue, it's not even the cost. It is each and every one of you, because you will be the one that will make this weekend happen. First of all, we need you to go out there and find those friends, those people that you want to share this beautiful movement with, and bring them into the movement by sponsoring them for the weekend. Because we have the team, we have the venue, we have the cost and the dates even, but we don't have those candidates that are needed. So this weekend will only happen with your support and your help. So Sue, you can take it from there.
One of the things that I keep thinking about is a challenge that Father Daly gave to us probably a little over a year ago now. When he spoke to us, he had a question for us, and it was, do you think that Cursillo is still relevant today? And after a bit of discussion with each other, almost everybody decided, yes, there was meaning for Cursillo today in the church, that Cursillo did have a role. And of course, we are Cursillo, so that meant we have a role. Now, there's a kind of bridge between saying that Cursillo is relevant and living that Cursillo is relevant, turning that spoken word of confidence into action that says, indeed, we are confident that this is the case. So believe me, I will get to weekend very shortly, but let me start out first with something else. The something else is that if we believe that Cursillo is relevant, then we need to be living the method. So the first thing we need to do is be Cursillo. We need to meet with a group of friends and share with a group of friends our prayer, study, and action, so that indeed we are growing and capable of going out and evangelizing. Then we need to support each other in Ultrea. This is where we buoy each other up, where we show how God is acting in our lives, and we share both our confidence in God for all of the good things he has accomplished in and through us, and our confidence in God that he is going to pick us up from flat on our faces when we have failed to do what we thought would be so easy for us to do. So living the movement is primarily important, because it's only if we do that are we being authentic Cursillistas, and only if we are authentic Cursillistas can we reach out and say, hey, I've got this great thing going for me, and I think it would be really, really great for you too. So that's where I start. I start with living the method. Now, I'm going to borrow something that Nancy Smallwood mentioned at the Oktoberfest, because I thought it was a great idea. We do have a weekend coming up. I had a team set aside 2 years ago, ready to go. I have told them that I did not require them to hang on forever. So I'm going back and asking them once again, would you be willing and able to serve for this weekend? So don't be surprised if you get a call, and some of you will. And for me, the most important factor in having someone work a weekend is being in group reunion and being active in Ultrea. I know when I went to regional, they asked about whether we were having weekends and were we able to take all of our team members from the School of Leaders? And I said, well, that's not what I'm doing. And I didn't say it was what Washington was doing. I owned it as a person who was going to be leading the next Women's Weekend. I said, what I am doing is going to each one of the Ultreas, and those Ultrea leaders among you know that I did this 2 years ago, and said, who are the active women in your Ultrea? So that I would know that each and every person who was coming on that team was part of Cursillo, not just had it made a weekend, but was part of living the method. So living the method is vitally important. So I will be going and reinvigorating a team. Now, when you're working a team, you have several committees on the team, and one of them is Palanca. And Palanca is something that is requested of the community, but very often the request comes a week or two before the weekend. Did you write a Palanca note for the new candidates? Okay. I'm going to take Nancy's idea and request Palanca starting now. In fact, I'm going to suggest kicking off a Palanca campaign the first Sunday of Advent and keeping it going throughout the weekend. And to Nancy's thought, this is what I did. I thought it was so great. Nancy suggested that we all have to become part of the weekend. Well, I looked at that, and Nancy had suggested, well, we have 7 Ultreas at 7 days of a week. Give an Ultrea 1 day a week and have that Ultrea use that day to offer Palanca for the weekend. Well, I kind of embellished that a little bit. So I listed all of the Ultreas, and I listed them when I could, with the night or day when they met, but it doesn't really matter. It could be any day or any night that the Ultrea chooses to do this. But once a week, on a given day, the day that that Ultrea chooses, every member of that Ultrea say a rosary for the weekend. That's 20 minutes of time. That's 20 minutes of your belief that Cursillo has meaning in your life and in the church today. It is your Ultrea's membership in the weekend. So I put down, say Monday, Northeast, Southeast, Tuesday, Calvert, Wednesday, Southern Maryland, Thursday, Montgomery, Friday, Laurel, Saturday, Central PG, Sunday, St. Teresa. But whatever day you choose, you can choose to meet as an Ultrea and say a family rosary. Or you can choose to do it individually. Now, I chose rosary, but there are all kinds of other things that you could do. In fact, each one of us as individuals should spend some time before the Lord praying about this. What prayers you use, when you do it, how you do it, whether you do it during an exposition, whether you just pop into church and spend quiet moments with the Lord talking to the Lord about the weekend, remembering how that weekend affected your life, affected my life. I will tell you that I went through and am still going through a situation where we had pastors missing in action. I had one pastor who had two themes. The themes were anti-abortion and money. I'm single. I'm not about to be put myself in a situation where abortion is even anything in my mind, and I can run out of listening to money sermons very, very quickly. That pastor was replaced by a pastor who is too sick to have ever been a pastor. And he did not get better during the 8 years that he was our pastor, during which he had liver transplant operations, and he was not relieved during that time. So, it's been hard. And what kept me going spiritually within my own life was the spirituality I had from Cursillo. That was a very, very important part of my life, and it would not have been there except for Cursillo. So that's very, very important. So James and I were talking, we're going to have an Ultra leaders meeting, and we're going to sit down with Ultra leaders, and we're going to talk to them about this. But don't feel shy about mentioning it to your friends and to your Ultra leaders. We'll get there, but if you get there before us, wonderful. James, do you want to jump in for a while and I'll keep quiet?
Yes. And as Sue was saying, all Ultras would play a large part in making the weekends happen. And Sue spoke of how we can spiritually lift the weekend in prayer. Well, I guess there's another way that we have to support, and that is financially. Everyone will hear, if they've not already heard, that these weekends are much more expensive than they've ever been. It's going to cost a lot more. And when you have a team member who has to pay, especially if they're a retired person or on a fixed income or whatever, it's a lot of money. When you have a candidate who might have a single household income, it's a lot of money. So that's the way we can come to their aid, their support. If you can, maybe the Ultras can work out some way that they can help sponsor either a team member or a candidate. If it's a way that the Ultra can maybe start a savings fund or have a fundraiser. I know with our Ultra, we're not meeting in person and probably won't be because everyone appreciates being able to meet virtually. But maybe within the Ultra, we'd have to find a way that we can start some kind of fund or some way that we can save, even if it's only $1 a month or $10 a month or whatever you can afford. But we need to do this. I mean, we have money in the treasury, but that money would quickly be depleted if we had to use all of it to help send someone on a weekend. So every dollar that each person, each Ultra can contribute will help make this weekend happen as well. we've not really mentioned the cost of the weekend to most people for fear that they would hear the price and would run because it's so expensive. And unfortunately, that's the way it is here. We're in an area where the venue is quite pricey. And when we are blessed by the fact that these team members are volunteering their time, and any of you who have worked the team know that you're at least a month or more, closer to 3 months actually, giving up your time to work on this team, and you're paying to do that. So it is a big sacrifice for both the team members and the candidates. So hopefully we can help make this weekend work by helping support the efforts by our fundraising, by our contributions. Because if we don't have this weekend, we'll go another year of hearing everyone saying, well, when are we going to have a weekend? And for nearly 67 years, we've not had a weekend. And part of it was because of the cost. Parts of it were because of the pandemic. Parts of it was because of the lack of venue. But we can't let the money keep us from having this weekend. So if we all have to tighten our belts a little bit, we'll do that. And that could be our pelunk, along with the prayer. Just to give that little bit will help somebody else come a little bit closer to Christ. And remember, Jesus gave a whole lot more to bring us closer to him. He gave his life on a cross. So if he could bear that cross, I'm sure we could bear a few dollars out of our income or out of our pockets. So that's the end of that pitch. I'll let Sue take over again.
The greatest present is presence. And your presence to another person, walking with that person and volunteering to continue walking with that person through the weekend and afterwards is a tremendous gift that you can give. So one of the things I would suggest, and you'll hear a lot more about this, is to begin looking out from where you sit or stand or walk and see if there isn't somebody who could be part of Cursillo, for whom being part of Cursillo would be of great benefit. Now, I know I have made lots of mistakes in the past, and one of the mistakes that I made for a long time was saying, well, I'm telling people that there is this great community out there, but my old Trey is not living up to being that great community. So how can I ask somebody to come into something that isn't perfect? Well, the world isn't perfect. So we're asking people to come in and join our imperfect part of the world, trying to be just a bit more perfect. Another thing that I was thinking of was asking my friends, who are certainly old enough to have grandkids, about their daughters. Do their daughters have the kind of support group that we have with our group reunions and Altrea? And maybe look at that generation. It's a generation that has to go through lots of things that I didn't have to go through. I didn't have to keep up with all of the sports affairs and all of the school affairs, all of the various groups that are pulling at my life to get me to participate. I think one of the most important things about Cursillo is that for the most part, we ask you to be part of a group reunion and to be part of an Ultrea. We don't ask you to start a new ministry. We don't ask you to do any particular ministry. We ask you to be supported, be lifted up, and lift others up in their ministries, whatever it happens to be. And I think that's important. But look at the next generations coming along and see what we can do to envision them into Cursillo. So start looking, start walking. I was in parish council a week ago, and we were talking about the bits and pieces of the new evangelization, and there are 4 pieces to evangelization. And I suggested that one of the things that we needed to do was to accompany other persons. And the pastor said, yes, that's exactly it. That's part number 4. What we are doing, the simple things that we're doing, reaching out in friendship, are the kinds of things that are so very important in evangelization. Nobody was ever converted by a syllogism. But people respond to another human being out of kindness and love. So, keep those ideas in mind. Part of Palanca is to reach out to other people in kindness and love, even if you're not sponsoring them. James?
Well, Sue, I think we have said as much as we need to say, so I'm sure there are questions. So please feel free. Anyone that has any questions that they feel they need to ask, please feel free to do so. And hopefully Sue or I can answer your questions. So now's your time to speak.
Well, I have something. So I just wanted to kind of sum up a little bit about what I heard. So we can support Cursillo through prayer and asking our, personal prayer, but we can ask our Ultrea. We can do the rosary or something. We've each got a day of the week. Don't have to stick to that, but at least it's a jumping off place. We can help through our presence at events in Cursillo, and of course, financial support. And so maybe on that note, I will say some ideas that might help, because when we say expensive, we say maybe $300 or $400 a person for the weekend. So that's probably double what it was in the past. So if you are meeting in person at any kind of event, have a 50-50 raffle. Everybody, it's $1 for a ticket. And then at the end of the night, you draw a winner, and half of the money stays with Cursillo and the other half goes to the person. And a lot of time, they just donate that money back. So if, Laurel Ultrea is starting to meet, we are meeting in person as well as a hybrid meeting. So we're doing that. And we're, we get $30 or more each gathering. So it helps. The other thing is the popcorn fundraiser, which we did earlier this year or last year, whatever it was. And that's something that could be done, or, whatever. So also, if you know someone in your maybe Ultrea who is blessed with they're financially comfortable, that's something too that we can approach them and as the need arises, ask if they could make a donation to help subsidize somebody for Cursillo a weekend. So those are some of my thoughts. So let me open it up. Any comments, questions? What did you hear that struck you, or anything that you're wondering about? So we'll just open it up for questions and comments.
I made an observation or thought about something when James was talking about the idea of like $10 a month or something for a sponsor. It dawned on me that we're exactly 6 months today from the retreat. And so it seems kind of far away, but if you consider the fact that Christmas is 2 months and a week away, it's going to be here a lot quicker than expected. But just the whole fact that it's exactly 6 months away really struck me tonight as we were talking about it.
Yeah, that's great. In fact, I was just realizing, I don't know if everybody has the date for the weekend, but it is April. So it's after Easter. It is April 18th. That's Thursday through the 21st. April 18 to 21st. And it is going to be at the Washington Retreat Center, which is right next to Catholic University, where, the shrine. It's right there. So
at Calvert Altrea, we probably have down here at St. John Vianney, we probably have a good 100, I'm sure, people who have made Cursillo, and we probably have 10 that show up at Altrea. I'd be open and eager if anybody had a kind of clever way to tap those people who had a wonderful weekend but aren't active now, but maybe they would be interested in supporting the movement. But I'm not sure how to approach them. Anybody got any great ideas?
My idea is still half baked, but as soon as it gets finished cooking, I will talk to you about that.
Oh, yay, Nancy. I'm looking forward to hearing. Go on, Kathy.
I was going to say, just, some kind of, it might be expensive to do a letter these days at, whatever, it's 55 cents a letter. But if you could give them in person at church, or maybe just an email or something, but more of a personal request for help, and, start off by asking for prayer. And you can say, it's, good news is we got this weekend, it's coming up in 6 months. So could you please do Palanca? Because Palanca is a lever to roll stones and to remove obstacles. And we have some obstacles to, before us. One, finding candidates; two, paying for them to go, and then getting everything restarted, with around the weekend. So asking them to pray, and then, also asking if they could consider a donation, financial donation, and maybe, pick, like, Christmas is coming up. So maybe have, if you're not meeting in person, maybe do so for, Christmas or an Advent, have a special meeting. And if it has to be in the daytime, because I know driving at night is hard for people. But, like, have a gathering. It's going to be a Christmas party for Calvert Altrea, and then at that event, have, ask people in advance if they could bring a donation, or do the 50-50, or have a raffle or something there. But then, so those are some of my ideas.
Thank you.
Kathy, your thought of a present, in a sense, around Christmas time entered into the back of my mind. First of all, we could ask for a Christmas present when we meet for the Advent reflection. And
Yes.
if Northeast Southeast is going to have their Epiphany party, we could ask for presents, not presents for the weekend. And Gifts of prayer are fine, but gifts of money would be better. Give a present not to exceed $20 or something like that. But if everybody who came to that event, and you do get a lot of people coming to that event, we could collect some few hundreds of dollars that way.
Actually, Susan, at any of our in-person events, we definitely take a donation. Just last year at the Epiphany celebration, and we divided half of the money for Father Gary's parish and half for Cursillo. And we were able to, thanks to the charity of those that came, we gave almost $200 to the church and to Cursillo. And when we did the cookout this summer, that money we gave all to the Little Sisters of the Poor, but we gave them over $300, I think, and $20. So we do, and we have been making our in-person events a matter of donations, and we don't take any of what we collect for our Altrea, so we will continue to do that. But this year, hopefully, Father Gary won't mind us giving it all to Cursillo, and we definitely will ask him about that when we start talking about it. I'm already claiming that we'll be able to have it there. We haven't asked him yet, but hopefully we'll be able to have our Epiphany celebration again there. So that's definitely something that we plan on doing with the Altrea.
Okay, other questions or comments? Anything, we've got a lot of the folks from the Secretariat on the call tonight, so questions, comments, excitement.
So when will the workshop be for the sponsors?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Phyllis, will you answer that, please? And also you can maybe explain to them, since it is a pre-Cursillo thing, about the application process and registering their candidates.
Well, as been stated, we need candidates. But as far as a workshop goes, the last understanding I had, you all can correct me if I'm wrong, is that it would not only be a sponsorship workshop, but would also be something Cursillo related across the board. Before, they used to have the different committees come together, pre-Cursillo, 3-day, 4-day, and they would make presentations to the audience about their particular role in the process. So that was my understanding, that it wouldn't necessarily be a quote unquote pre-Cursillo sponsorship workshop, but it would be a Cursillo weekend event.
I can say that actually next month's topic for Cursillo School of Leaders is sponsoring candidates. We're just going to, it's not necessarily the workshop on how to do it, but we're going to talk about the need for it. We're going to have some best practices. At least that's what I'm hoping will happen. Some folks will be on the call who are known as being good sponsors and have sponsored several candidates over the years. So just because we have to, I think remind me if I'm wrong, but it's like late January or February where we have to know that, we have a certain number of candidates in order to have the weekend in April. There's some deadline. And so it is none too early in November to really be raising the issue of sponsorship and helping people to really think about, who in your life identifying. I would love tonight if everybody would, the Holy Spirit is putting somebody on your heart right now, in your neighborhood, in your parish, in your family, a friend, a coworker, saying that person needs to consider Cursillo. So write that name down right now so you don't forget. Begin praying about it, and then get information so that you can begin seeing if that person might be open to making the weekend. So that at least is a little bit about sponsorship that's going to be coming up.
And have we actually decided dollars and cents wise what this weekend's actually going to cost per person?
We did, but like I said, as I recall, it was something, I want to say it was closer to, it was between $300 and $400 a person, as I recall. Am I wrong on that, Bernadette, or does anybody know?
I will have to get the cost, but I thought it was something like 385 or something like that.
Okay.
The last quote I heard was 410. I don't know how.
I'm with you,
how-
Phyllis. That's what I
Mhm.
recall.
Yeah, I heard
410.
410.
Yeah.
So when we get the applications certainly ready, we want to have a cost there, but we certainly want to make sure it's very clear to people that finances should not be a problem. And that's obviously a very delicate thing to be able to finesse and be able to, and that's certainly, it's important to know person you want to sponsor, just make sure that that's not the reason that they're holding back. And we certainly don't want to
Right.
have that to be the factor. And that's why, James put such emphasis on the fundraising, because we want to be able to take that as a stumbling block, or, that is our palanca, as was said earlier, too, just making sure. I mean, as a secretariat, James,
Yeah,
and
we
do we want to be able to, I think we should,
I think we have
put
to
a
have it on
particular
the
number
application.
at it and say that this is what it is, but how the phraseology and the application even, I think it's something we should work on and just actually have a number. Is my thinking, just making sure that there isn't that stumbling block there, and how to do that best, and whether we would out of the box subsidize everyone, and then just some people might have a scholarship.
Yeah, and John, as I recall, we did talk about that at our last secretariat meeting. I just don't have the details in my head, but yeah, but in any case, it's we have to lay out so much money for in advance to reserve the center, and then we have to pay that weekend the rest of it or something like that. So a lot of money is going out the door for us, and we have to make sure that anyway, so we're going to be on top of all that and get those details straightened out. So,
And something
but
else,
certainly, I'm sorry, go ahead, Nancy.
something else, last years ago, we were asked to give a deposit when we applied for to be on a weekend. Will this be the case again? And will that deposit be like less than half? And I'm sure you might not be able to answer that tonight, but it's just kind of something I need to know, because it's kind of hard to say, come on this weekend, and not have quite enough information for people to make valid decisions.
Right.
Well, I'm sure we will need a deposit, but one of the advantages, though, of registering early, putting in that early application, is they can put down a deposit, and it doesn't have to be a large deposit. And I work in a business where people will plan a vacation a year, 18 months in advance, so they can stretch out those payments. So if the person registers very early, they can take 4 or 5 months making small payments rather than registering at the very end of the period and having to make one large payment.
Okay.
So that's something, when you speak to people, you can explain to them that the earlier they register, the easier it becomes in making those payments over time, rather than having to make one large payment.
Good.
All right, great. So some other questions.
I have another comment. You can also go to people in the movement that may be willing to give money out of their pockets to support a weekend. I'm willing to do it. You don't know whoever else would do it. All you can do is put an appeal out.
And actually, Sheila, the fourth day news is being prepared. And I wonder if John, you and Lethea have considered, or, I don't know the proper procedures, but do we need to put in an appeal? Ask
Can't
people.
hurt.
I think that would be the Secretariat's call, what they would like to have. I mean, there's the lay director, the lay coordinators could put that in their letter. What, for example, might be the way the best to do it, I think. But
In the past, we used to make an appeal in the December issue to donate to Cursillo.
Hello? You okay?
One of the
Yeah.
things that is true of Montgomery County, Altrea, is that we have people who are still very much concerned about Altrea, but they are, or Cursillo, but they are not able to come to Altrea, and Zoom doesn't work for them because of hearing issues. And I am sure if I reached out to some of those individuals, we would get checks from them for the weekend.
Right.
And that may be true for other Altreas as well.
Great idea. Great idea. Yeah, because as John was alluding, we don't want money to be a stumbling block for anyone.
That's right.
I am sure that as we make the need known, our community will come together to supply the need. But we have to have candidates. Nobody's going to, who wants to donate just generically to the weekend, and we don't even know that we have candidates. But if we can say, if we can get folks signed up early, and we can say we've already got 8 or 10 candidates.
How many do we need for a go?
I think we can have,
Yeah, what is the smallest?
was it 20 or more? I think there's plenty of space for the candidates.
Well, that wasn't actually what I meant.
Oh, what did you say?
What is
I said the wrong thing evidently. What I mean is, if there are 6 candidates, will that weekend go?
Oh,
I see what you're saying.
good question. I don't know
Okay.
what the minimum is. We did talk about it.
All right.
Because there's a minimum that they charge us.
Exactly.
But I can imagine, just to get the weekend starting again, we might decide to take a little bit of a financial hit just to get them started, knowing that, money is not determining factor. But I
think that's a good idea.
That's a decision for the Secretariat.
Because we did have a men's weekend, I think, where we only had nine paychecks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And at that time, we were saying 10 or 11 or 12. I forgot what it was. But we decided, let's go for it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So other questions, comments?
I think Bernadette can correct me, but if I remember what you said, Bernadette, we're looking at a contract for 25.
Yes.
Now, if we had a full large team, that would be 26 people. That would mean 9 candidates, if my arithmetic is correct.
So 15,
16 is the
16 team.
16 is
16
the team size we normally have. I was
Right.
kind of hoping to go down to 13, but we'll see how that happens. But so 9 would be nominally the number that we would be hoping for.
Okay. That's a good
And-
thing to pray for.
Yeah, and
Mhm.
like you,
Where's the minimum?
That's a minimum. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
if we go over, that's fine. But if we signed a contract, we'd end up paying for 25.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. So
And I'm with you, Kathy. Granted, it's a secretariat decision, but I'm with you. I'd go the weekend if we had 6. And
Right.
we'll look for the money someplace else. But
Yeah, yeah,
We have to get that jump start.
yep. Anyway, but that is hopefully not the problem that we will have. I hope we have the problem that we have to turn people away or put them on a waiting list.
That'll be swell to get a waiting list.
wouldn't it though?
Because
So
we
would
had a
be.
waiting list, because that weekend will be the next regional, but it will be over with for us to make the closing on that Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, I think I want to thank James and Sue for getting our new series kicked off, restarting Cursillo weekends. And please, folks, spread the word. Cursillo School of Leaders, when we started being on Zoom, we had 30 people, and we have 13, 14 now. So, which is wonderful, but we could be, if we each brought one more person, we would double. So I think this is a great way to capture the excitement of of Cursillo and begin, getting our community woken up and active so that we can really interact and support this weekend as we approach.